every Wednesday. It always takes me a hot minute to realize what day it is. I am here. So those of you who are new to me, good afternoon, good morning, good night, wherever you are. Welcome to the Live Coffee Talk Show. This is where I bring inspirational stories on business and mindset so that you can courageously and confidently head out to the world and share your message and having that clarity to exactly what you're sharing and put it into actually a way of marketing strategy so that people will know your business. Welcome to the show. Today I am excited. Let's see who do I have here. Let's just get rid of all these busyness on my screen today. Hi, Diana. Nice that you are here joining us. And again, those of you who are watching inside the Facebook group, be sure to click that link from the StreamYard so that you get permission to access and do a shout out like Diana did. Welcome. All right, today I am again very excited and also privileged because this is my friend, a very close friend of mine and great peer. There's so many things about Helen that I just cannot say enough about her. And maybe you're joining me today from LinkedIn, from YouTube, wherever you are in the world. I know that there's a lot of us feeling a lot of like, when is this ever going to stop? Maybe you're feeling it too, because for 2 years ago, up until now, we have not stopped all this chaos and obstacles and challenges that we're experiencing today. So maybe you find yourself having that feeling of, oh my gosh, is this how life is going to be? Now, here's what I'm going to offer you to have a different way of looking at it starting from today. And I'd like you to meet my friend and an amazing trauma healing coach, Helen Brenner. Helen has a master's degree in clinical mental health counseling, specializing in trauma and crisis counseling. She has a bachelor's degree in psychology, a licensed NLP in hypnosis, a certified Emerge practitioner, a certified trauma-informed coach, and a fellow IPEC coach with a PCC accreditation from the International Coach Federation. I'd like to share a little bit of in her words with you. Helen is someone who was in a state of trying to and search for answers for most of her life. And more often than not, she found more question marks than to answers that needed to be asked. She spent a great part of her adult life in the state of surviving after having experienced years of childhood sexual abuse and childhood bullying by both classmates and teachers. She had no idea who she was or what she wanted, or if she even allowed to have what she wanted in the first place. That moment of, do I really deserve what I want? And do I even, is the universe actually permitting me to ask for it? Today, she's an inspiring coach to her clients who she's working with, as well as to other women coaches who's struggling to put themselves out there into the world to share a trauma surviving story. I know I've shared multiple conversations with Helen where, when you're having that heavy trauma experience, it's rather difficult to be vulnerable enough that now you are here sharing and opening up your business. It's difficult to talk about some of the experiences that we went through. So please join me with a warm welcome, Helen Brenner.
Wow. That's awesome. Thank you so much for that wonderful introduction. I'm all beaming over here.
I was hoping that you won't break down in tears. Like as I look back our friendship and all the years that we've been together, I think I came across you and your profile when it was just very random. I don't even remember exactly how we met, but like through the years, I've heard so much of your amazing story and that struggle of not being able to head out and spreading the message and something that you were really passionate about, that was really something that was holding you back for all this year. Yeah. And you're bringing my tears in my eye right now.
Yeah, listening to my story kind of brings tears to my eyes too, and it's kind of funny.
Yeah. So I think, that's unpacked from the beginning. What made you decide that coaching was the thing for you?
I heard about coaching. It was before I went and pursued my bachelor's in psychology. Which I started at 43, by the way. And I had heard about coaching, but I think that I just didn't feel it legitimate. Like, oh, what is that? There's no degree with it, whatever. It was the back of my mind. And after I had finished my my master's in mental health counseling and did all my field work and was ready to go and take the exam, I was taking one more licensing course that Florida required. And in my note that I found at the beginning of January 2018, I wrote down coaching, NLP, and hypnosis. And so they was still in the back of my mind, and I don't really know where it came from. And then when I was doing the NLP training, I started thinking about how I really wasn't resonating with the mental health model anymore and diagnosing. And I'd had a clinical supervisor that was very much against diagnosing. And so one thing led to another, and I started finding on Facebook other therapists who had turned coach. And I was like, wait a minute, I can do that. And so then I pursued more because I said, no, I have to have some sort of training. I can't just hang a new shingle. And so I went researching around and I found IPEC, and that's pretty much kind of how it happened. And then I was going to kind of do both mental health and coaching tandem, but I said, one, I didn't think I could stay in the right lane at the right time. And I just didn't believe in the mental health model anymore. So something that came to me probably 15 years ago or more showed up again in my life. And so it's that whole something we don't know brought me to this. So, and I'm ever so grateful for where I am now with this whole thing of being able to bring this model to clients.
You're giving me a lot to unpack here. Number one is, I think majority of us don't, well, at least the general public who's going to be watching this on YouTube and LinkedIn, we have a lot of people who are unfamiliar with the distinction between counseling and coaching. Like, you went through that journey of having a master's degree and now you're a certified coach. What is the difference between counseling and coaching?
I think the biggest difference is, in a nutshell, when you're a counselor, you're the one that decides what's wrong with somebody or what their dysfunction is, their disorder, because you have to diagnose. And at least for insurance, and if you're working in a clinic, you are the one that creates the treatment plan. Yes, you do it with the input of the client, but you're the one that has all the answers. And so you come from a place of expert. With coaching, and this is how I was as a counselor, I would say to my clients, the answers are within you. It's just my job to help you find them. And that's where I find coaching to be. I don't lead at all. I don't come up with anybody's treatment. It's whatever they want to do. And it puts the client in complete place of empowered. They may not know what they want, but they do after we help them dig it out. And I really like the fact that I was a therapy client for decades, and I just never felt anything changed. I would go in and I would hand them my problems and I'd say, I don't understand. And I'd walk out with the same problems with less money in my pocket. And so that's when I decided to get my degree, because I thought, wait a second, I'm going to figure this out myself and I'm going to fix me. And then after having gone through the other side of it, I just realized that the client really needs to be the one to really know who they are. If you lead them, you're going to lead them down a path that's not a path that was right for them in the first place, not entirely. And so that's significantly, to me, the biggest difference between the two modalities.
Mm. So you mentioned the problem. You walked into the therapies and counseling's office, and you're presenting your problem. What was your problem? What were your problems?
So I was a survivor of sexual abuse and bullying, and what I found was I started in high school very lonely, and I would use food. I would sit in my living room alone on a weekend and just eat boxes of ice cream from from the top to the bottom. And so that was one of my comforts in the beginning. I also struggled with money. My dad actually even took over my accounts. And this is all happening before I was 19. And the whole eating the ice cream was 17, 16 actually. And so I knew that I was self-harming. I was reaching out for someone to save me. And I look back, I just needed someone to stop this behavior. So I know now what I was doing was creating patterns for myself, and the patterns of the money. Probably was a lot of holding on to the money, not wanting to give it up, because I noticed later in my career, I didn't want to take vacation days, because once I took it, I no longer had that vacation day. So there became some sort of a control. But back then I would say, I'm harming myself with food. I got to a height of 198 pounds. I robbed Peter to pay Paul. I was in so much debt, it was scary. And I knew what I was doing. And I would say, I know what I'm doing. It was right out there, and no one took the bait. And it took me a long time. Then I got into a bad marriage, all these things that, when we're survivors of traumas, especially sexual abuse, we replay patterns. That's what we all do. Everything that we do, anytime anybody comes in for any kind of help, it's because they're running a pattern that's not functioning properly. It wasn't planned the right way or whatever. And so people come into coaching for the same thing. Nobody comes into anything like this saying, oh, I feel great. Although some people do. I feel great. I want things better. And I find that I would just hand it to them. And I went to 17 different professionals, psychiatrists, psychologists, clinical social workers, and nobody took the bait. And I was just like, there's something wrong with this. And I just kept looking and looking and looking and looking, and said, you know what? I'm going to figure it out myself. And now I know why it doesn't work, because the model doesn't work. It's a very antiquated model.
It's interesting how we're all different in terms of our coping mechanism. For you, it was like eating ice cream. Like, who know that eating ice cream would be a pattern, right? To be picked up, to notice how you're escaping things, how you're escaping or coping things. For someone else, it could be drugs or alcohol or something that really just put your emotional state in a different lens, so that you don't have to think about it, and it's an easy way out, rather than looking at what is the underlying cause. So
wait, so just to add to that, I did substance treatment for 3 years, working with mandated clients, and 70 to 80% or 75% of women who are in substance treatment have a history of childhood sexual abuse. I have lucky through my life. Food was my addiction, but I came very close to the edge. I was literally smoking crack in Harlem in 1985. And that's when crack was crack. Like, that's when it was like the most powerful. And I was in Harlem, and I don't know if anybody's familiar with Harlem, but it's one of the most, back then especially, it was one of the most dangerous places you could ever want to be. And so I was in and out of the projects of Harlem smoking crack. And the difference for me was I was so afraid to get caught that I never got addicted. But I was at rock bottom with that one, because I had spent all my money and I think I had a hitchhike out of the city to get home, because I had no money left. And the only difference between me and that coping, I just didn't get addicted. I didn't get caught. I didn't get raped, and I didn't get killed. But I was rock bottom, and people who survive childhood traumas, inevitably what they have a problem with is not so much what was done to them, but what they did to themselves as a result of it. And that's where the clients that I work with really struggle with. Wow, I did A, which led me to B, which led me to C, which led me to D. And, it could be early pregnancy or drugs or alcohol or whatever. And yeah, and then they spend the rest of the time feeling shame about what they themselves did to themselves. So just want to put that in there, because it's really important for people who are survivors of these kinds of things to understand that this is, I wouldn't say expected, but it's not uncommon by any stretch of the imagination. So if anybody's listening to this and looking at this and saying, wow, I really just don't feel great about anything that I've done in my life, come see me, because there is a pattern that your mind has developed, and it's done it to protect you, even though it's not such a great thing. So anyway.
So Helen, obviously you have gone through a lot. Like when I say a lot, it wasn't just like, oh, I had a little I don't know, trauma or car accident or I fell. It was something very internal. It was external, and that turned into something very internal. So I'm curious, why now? Why would you be telling this story now? Why would you be coming out and actually wanting to share? And you do have a podcast, which we'll go into a little later. But why are you speaking up right now?
Well, it's funny. I love how you asked that question, because I would tell everybody my story. I would just tell everyone my story. I was never shy about my story. It wasn't until I took Brene Brown's Dare to Lead course that I recognized vulnerability in what I was doing was actually not being vulnerable. I thought it was being vulnerable. It was not. It was a dysfunctional thing. I thought, oh, I can talk to anybody about this, but the way I was doing it was not healthy. And about, I'd say, seven or 8 years ago, I started writing on Facebook in a blog, and I called it Getting Past Survivor, because I believe there's a place. I believe that we're victims. We experience something, and then we live in a place of what I call the survivor era. And then I've always believed that there's something on the other side of it. There's something else on the other side of that, where there's a peace and a freedom. And I just kept believing that. And that was, I got that around 40, when I was 42. And that's when I decided to go back to get my degrees in psychology and whatever. And so I started writing this blog on Facebook as Getting Past Survivor. And then I never put my name. I didn't put a picture of me. I was just writing. And I had about 100 followers, which is pretty cool for someone, right? I mean, I'm touching somebody. And then slowly I would put my picture, and then I'd, put my name. And then through the years, then I started linking it to my own personal page. And now I'm much more vocal about it, because through my growth. And yeah, so it's been a very progressive over the last 15 years. And so now, I'm speaking now, as opposed to writing. And I'm working on a book, which I'm still working on, but yeah.
How like I know you hate the scaling question. I'm about to give you a scaling question. Like on a scale of 1 to 10, right? How would you describe your effort of actually stepping out from the dark, from getting past survivor, to the point where you're comfortably speaking about your experience? Like on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 is,
the effort I'm putting in.
Yeah.
Oof, Michelle. And you know what? I tell you, I owe so much to you, because I was just telling my son this yesterday, that Michelle Quay has been probably the most influential person in my current life, as far as like my career, even my personal life. So on a scale of 1 to 10, I think I'm putting in like an 8. I would love to say 10, but there's still some fear of not necessarily my story, but how to deliver my story. So that little 2 that's missing in there has to do with the technology and just getting out there and doing that. I feel my energy is a 10. My effort is an 8, but my energy behind this is a 10. And that's been a 10. This healing has been a 10 for as long as I can remember. I mean, the first time I went to see somebody, I was 17. I just mistakenly told my parents what happened to me, and they took me to a person to talk to. And that put the bug in my ear, that there's someone out there that can help you. And I was 17 years old. And even before that, I would ask friends, like, did anybody experience this? So I have probably been at the energy level of a 10 for like probably 45 years. And now the effort I'm doing it, wow, it's up there. It's amazing, the difference. And, through all my change work that I've done, and then meeting people who inspire me, it's just been absolutely phenomenal, the growth. And yeah.
And I just really want to point out to the audience that one of the things that you may not see Helen been doing like right here on the screen, but what she did was phenomenal. Like this is a woman who did not know much about technology, and she's not very tech savvy, and here she is. She actually put up. She designed and put up her entire website by herself. And so that to me, I wanted to be able to like just to share that with you, but somehow I'm not getting the permission from the StreamYard to share it. But please, if you go and visit her website, helenbrennercoaching.com, you're going to see what that energy, that 10, number 10 of energy, how it shows up on her website. It was day in, day out, nonstop, multiple texts to Michelle. But she did it.
That website was the heart and soul of my change. Like I knew the first website, this is my second company name. I originally started out as Discover You Coaching because I was hiding. And I finally was like, wait a second, I need to put my name out there because this is me. I don't need to hide anymore. And so finding that, there's a template, and finding that, and then being able to know me, like that website really is me. If you look at that website, you're going to see Helen really well in there. And that's really what I want people to see is I don't hide anything. I don't want to hide anything because I lived a life of hiding. I lived a life of shame and don't talk about it and let it go. And I'm not doing that anymore. It takes too much energy to do that. And so my website, the energy I put in, day out, Michelle's right. I was, people would say, what are you doing? Working on my website. And it would happen that for like, 2 months, maybe. It was a long time. And I'm really happy with how it came out. And I think it really represents what I want people to see about me. And like I said, I couldn't have done it without you, Michelle, because I was constantly sending you a text. So if anybody really wants help and inspiration, Michelle Quay is your gal because she'll push you, prod you, help you, pull you, pick you up.
And I say beautiful website. I think one thing that since we're talking about your website, I also I'm really curious about your one of the things that you're doing is your podcast, Getting Past Survivor. Tell me more about that.
So Getting Past Survivor, I wrote that on a piece of paper in 16 years ago. And I was married and I knew I was getting out of the marriage and things were happening. And I had written, everything that I was doing was for the book. I originally was going to write a book. I still intend to write a book called Getting Past Survivor. And I find that, to put my voice out there with it is one, it's easier, and maybe I want to get my voice out there in the quickest way possible. I don't want to wait until I can publish a book to be able to reach somebody. And so by creating this podcast and going through the anxiety of it, we worry so much about what other people are going to think. And I think that when it comes to like a helping profession, you want people, oh, my voice is going today. You want people to resonate with it. I want people to look at the stuff that I've been through and say, wow, that really sucked. And this is why it sucked. And this is what happens because of that. But here's the other side of it. And this is why it's beautiful. Like, this is why everything we've gone through, even if it was the worst you've been through, it's still beautiful. It's still beautiful in life. And I wanted to be able to express that. And by putting my voice out there now, it's another way of being able to communicate. So I write a blog on Facebook called Getting Past Survivor. And then I put some blogs up on my website as I'm going along. And now I'm doing the podcast. And it's all the brand, I guess, of Getting Past Survivor. And eventually the book will come out. And hopefully people will say, I want to read the whole story. And so this is just like the kind of the beginning of it. But it's also a little bit easier than publishing right now.
I love it. I think as we're talking about this, and people who are experiencing that heavy trauma and they're trying to heal, I can speak for myself. When I was in that moment, in that space of being in the tunnel and being dark and still feeling really hurt, I wasn't able to see passing the surviving. And so, what would be something that you do with your clients, and how do you help them to get over it or past? I wouldn't say get over. I would say get past that surviving.
Yeah, and past is actually, it's interesting that 15 years before, or whatever, 10 years before I learned the new model that I'm doing, I knew past was I knew past was a word, PAST, get past it. And after I had taken that course, and I was looking for NLP, and I was looking for hypnosis, I found a course local in Tampa called NLP and hypnosis. And that has to be the number one change model in my life. Like I said, I've been through therapy for decades. Nothing changed. And then when I started taking the NLP and hypnosis, I started realizing why this doesn't work. And my instructor, his name is Elvis Lester, and he lives down here in Tampa. And he would say, you talk about it, and the brain hears it. And when the brain hears it, the brain does more of it. So if we say I'm depressed or I'm anxious, I'm this, I'm that, the brain's like, okay, I'm going to keep doing that for you because you keep focusing on it. And that's what therapy does. Really, it's, what's wrong with you today? And so through this model, I learned, I learned to get past it by using the power of the unconscious mind. And Elvis has since developed a more advanced model, which he calls Emerge, and it's eye pointing, and it's being able to move things around the visual field and making actual change work in the brain, changes the structure, the synapses, the firings in the brain. And you don't talk about the past. You literally, my clients clear things out. I mean, literally clear it out. And I say, what do you notice is different? They say, oh, I feel different. I'm like, yes, you will, because we're going directly to the unconscious mind, which is like 90 to 95% of the brain's activity. 5% thinks it knows everything, and that's the 5% that goes to therapy. But I work in the area that doesn't even, you don't even get a hold of until we do a model like this. The eyes are a direct link to the brain. And so I want to get to the brain. So I always say that working in the auditory channel, which is the hear, is like trying to catch a taxi in New York City in a rainstorm at rush hour. I am not going to try to catch that cab. And so the way I do it is just quick. It is the least painful way of making a change. And it's the most powerful thing I've ever experienced. And I personally have experienced clearing my childhood events, my childhood feelings, the shame, the guilt, the fears. And then my fiance passed away 4 years ago. That was the beginning. That was like all happening at the same time. And, I can talk about him. I still cry. I will always love him, but I'm not living in that. I'm not living in that grief anymore. I'm not living in that past anymore. And this is the most amazing model I've ever seen. And I think everybody who does any kind of mental work should know something like this. It's absolutely 1000% powerful. And it's hard to describe. So I'm always asking people, hey, what do I do to do this? But like I said, that's what I do.
So I know this is totally unplanned, and what's coming up for me is, do you think we can like do a quick demo so that people will actually know what we're talking about?
Yes. And to do that, I'm going to move my camera a little bit so I can see you. We're going to move
Okay.
you up a little bit, right? So yeah. So what I would do to start with is I'll just start. Okay. So Michelle, go ahead and just close your eyes and take a deep breath. And then go ahead and breathe in about 4 seconds through your nose, and then hold it for about 5 seconds. And then let it out your mouth for about 6 seconds. And then when you get to the bottom, hold it and then go back around that box again. And as you're doing that breathing, notice your body if it's changing, if you're feeling yourself relaxing, shoulders are loosening, or your face is loosening, or your feet, your hands. And as you are just doing that nice deep breathing, just allow your mind to think about things that might be, bothering you, whatever your mind wants to show up right now, whether it's something you might see in your mind's eye or hear, like a voice or sounds, or something you might feel in your body. So as you're breathing, just let anything come through that your mind wants to share with you.
Do I start talking now?
No, keep breathing. So keep breathing and just notice what came up for you.
Okay.
Anything you might see, anything you might hear, or anything you might feel. What are you noticing?
I'm noticing this agitation.
Okay. And where is it showing up for you?
It's showing up in my chest.
Okay. So go ahead and use your left hand and reach into your chest. Just touch your chest where you're feeling that. And now keep your head straight and look down at your hand as if you can see it through your chin. Nope, put your head straight. Get your head straight and look. You're going to look down like this. So you're going to look right. And then just take that sensation out of your chest and just lift it out. And follow that with your eyes. Keep looking down. Keep looking down. Follow with your eyes. And then take a deep breath. And what do you notice that's different?
It wants to come back.
Okay, so take a deep breath. And what is that doing for you? How's it serving you?
Not good.
It's not good. So is there anything in there that you want to keep?
No.
Okay. So go ahead and just keep your head straight. It's really important to have your eyes only move, and watch your hand as you bring that down around to your left and then out of your visual field, and then shake your hand. And when you can't see it anymore, and say no more.
No more.
And then take a deep breath. And what are you noticing?
Better.
Okay. So just take a deep breath and just go inside, which means close your eyes and just kind of feel what's happening in there. Notice anything else that comes up.
It feels like there's tentacles that's attached to that thing.
So it's still attached to you in some way?
Yeah.
So to close your eyes, take a deep breath and just feel around in your body where that might be showing up for you.
In my bag.
Okay, so you have it. Hold on to it. So go ahead and put your hand back there. And so now what I want you to do is I want you to keep your head, open your eyes, put your head straight, and you're going to kind of look over here with your head straight, and you're going to notice your hand, and you're just going to wait for your hand and keep waiting to see it. And as soon as you can see it, just take it out and just bring it up to the left a little bit, because I'm curious what that is. And then just take a deep breath and notice what's different.
Lighter.
Okay. And so now just take a deep breath and look over at your left hand and just notice what that's meaning for you. What is your brain sharing with you or showing you?
It's a black cloud.
It's a black cloud.
Mm-hmm.
If you were to take your right hand and just kind of pull it apart a little bit, just kind of like go like this a little bit. Take a deep breath. What do you notice that's happening while you're doing that?
It's fluffy. So things start to crumbling apart.
Okay. So is there anything inside that cloud? Has it changed? It's still the same?
It's still the same,
Okay.
but like there's nothing inside. It's more like kind of like cotton. Like if you take out the pillows and there's cotton inside, so you pull it apart, there's nothing inside, but there's like patterns.
Okay. And so you looked over to your right. Take a deep breath and look to your right. What do you notice when you look over there?
Thinking my thoughts.
Okay. And are you seeing them, hearing them, or feeling them over there?
Seeing them.
Okay. So go ahead and just reach out with your right hand, keep your head straight, and move your eyes to your hand and have your hand come around and bring that out in front of you. And then go ahead and take a deep breath. And what do you notice is different?
This one is white.
Okay. And so look at between the two of them. What do you notice that's different about them? What are you now noticing about them?
This is heavier, and that one just sits there.
Okay. Which one is serving you more, better?
This one.
Okay. So go ahead and just reach out with your left hand and just kind of keep your head straight, eyes on your hand, and sweep the field on the left and just bring that out of your visual field and shake your hand and say no more.
No more.
And take a deep breath. And now what do you notice is different?
I'm still holding on, holding on to the cloud.
Yeah. So what do you notice different about that cloud? You're holding it differently.
Yeah, I'm grabbing it now.
Yeah. So take a deep breath and just kind of look at your hand and notice what it's telling you. What is that representing for you?
New ideas.
Okay. Is that good for you? Do you like that?
I like that.
Yeah. Is that a value to you?
Yeah.
Okay. So go ahead and just use your right hand and that hand and just keep your head straight and just raise that above. Just put it up here and just let it hang in the air above you. Look up as you're doing it. And then go ahead and let it go up there. And then take a deep breath. And what do you notice?
It's hanging there.
Yeah. Do you like it up there?
I do.
So what do you notice is different about it just in the last couple of minutes?
It feels lighter here. It feels lighter here. And earlier I felt like there's a string of my muscle in the back. It's kind of like tweaking and twitching on me. And then when you told me to do that, and now I'm seeing this, I'm focusing what's hanging out here. That thing over there, it's kind of like it releases the stress.
Yeah. So that's basically a very quick demonstration of being able to. So the brain is nothing but chemical reactions, right? And so what we see is all it's all imagined. It's not really there, but what it represents comes out in words. People say, "Oh, I feel blank" or whatever. And so to be able to do this, you were able to move out something that we don't know what it was. We could have gotten some more information, and we would have gone further with this because I would have taken the ideas and forwarded the action for you to, okay, what are those ideas doing for you? And maybe more about the black cloud, because all these things are representative of the patterns your mind has developed in order to serve you. And when I say serve you, everything the brain does, it does for positive intent, even if it's eating yourself to 300 pounds, it's doing it for comfort, or it's doing it for self-protection. It's doing it in something that it thinks you need. And so what I do with this model is I move out what you don't need and I bring in what you do need. And we do it without actually, we talk. There's some things that come up. I mean, I'm not saying my clients sit in silence at all, although one sat in silence for 3 sessions, which was pretty funny. Very big change work, but never gave me any story. I don't need the story. I just need to see the client needs to get the visual. Anything, we can pull things out and hear. And so, yeah, it's a very powerful thing. So that was just a very quick demonstration of how it changes the kinesthetic, which is the feeling reaction to what we're experiencing, which is why people go and use alcohol and drugs and sex and working hard and all kinds of stuff they do, because they don't want to feel things anymore. And so I do it and I quickly break the connection to the feeling so they can get information about what it's doing for them. And then if they want to keep it, they might want to keep parts of it. And then they literally discard the rest. So that's how that works.
It's very interesting, and as you're walking me through this, you didn't put any words in my mouth. You didn't put any story into what I was seeing, how I was feeling. You kind of just sat there, observed, and you gave me that space and room to describe what I was seeing. And our mind is really just this beautiful creation that the universe giving to us. We have the ability to think thoughts and create these visuals, and that also translates to movements. So even though I'm going through like all these motion, but in my mind, I'm like, I have this visual of like literally the black cloud versus the white cloud, and the white cloud really it was heavier than the dark cloud, and that's something that I don't need anymore. And this is what I'm having right here, hanging in my new ideas.
Right.
Yeah.
So for me, I don't really see visuals. When I first started doing this, I felt really, again, the shame came in, and I was like, oh my God, I don't see anything. I never see anything. I never see anything. And then finally, Elvis is like, yeah, but as a survivor of trauma, your brain has been very, very, very well tuned to not letting you see things. And so a visual that might come to my eyes, or to my mind, I should say, goes so quickly that I didn't even know it's there. And so my body communicates to me through the kinesthetic. I get feelings back, mostly in the back of my legs. And that's my, if you're an IPEC person, my level 1, where I want to just helpless, I want to hide. I want to just get into a bowl and hide. And so other people, they get auditory. So I'm always taking things out of their head, taking things out. Some people get a lot in their chest. Some people get it in their back. It's all how the body presents it to them, whereas living it in there. And so when you look at your body and you're like, oh my God, I always have an upset stomach. I always had an upset stomach when I was growing up. Mm-hmm. I can't tell you how many times my mother wrote a note to school, and then I ended up writing a note to school because I forged her signature with an upset stomach. And upset stomach was the kinesthetic response to what was happening with me. I wasn't a sickly person. I just that's how the trauma, that's how the kinesthetic response was in me. And so when you look at your life and you look at your body and you do a visual, an auditory, and a kinesthetic, notice what comes up for you, because that's how your body's talking to you. That's why the book is called, that one book is called The Body Keeps the Score. It's all there. And so for you, you're a very visual person. So yours comes out very visually. So I find what works for somebody. And when I saw you looking to your right, I was like, okay, something's happening over there. And your mind was like, no, I want to be doing this as opposed to doing this. And that's why I made that connection for you.
Beautiful. All right, Helen, tell us again, where can people find you?
So my website is helenbrennercoaching.com. And on there, you will find drop-down menus to my podcast and my blog, Getting Past Survivor. You can find me on Facebook under Helen Brenner Coaching. And if you really want to, you can go read Getting Past Survivor on Facebook. It's a blog I've been writing for a very long time. I write about everything. And I share stuff. I share me. I am not afraid to talk about anything, because my sexual abuse affected every part of my wheel of life. And so just Getting Past Survivor is really where that's really where I'm doing it. I'm also on Instagram now too. I made my first reel yesterday and I was very excited about that. Thank you, Nimi. And so, yeah, so that's also Helen Brenner Coaching. So it's either Helen Brenner Coaching or Getting Past Survivor on Facebook. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Helen. Oh my gosh, you brought so much to the audience and everyone loved you. It's very inspirational. I'm so glad that we did this.
I am too, Michelle. I mean, I really enjoy, now having a platform for platforms to be able to talk about this stuff, because I speak for those who can't. I was shut up for so long or shut down for so long. And I know so many people. I'm an admin of 2 survivor groups, child abuse and childhood sexual abuse. And people are just shutting us up all over the place. And I refuse to do that. I am speaking for everybody who can't speak for themselves. And so I will give me your hand and I will guide you down the path, because nobody needs to suffer a minute longer than they have to. So my dedication.
Here's my t-shirt for you. Go be brave.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Helen.
Thank you, Michelle.
I'm gonna put you to the backstage so we can chat in a little bit. I do have a comment here. Diana says, "Thank you so much for the openness." And we had a Facebook user who said, "That was great demonstration. We appreciate you."
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Okay, I'll see you in a bit.
Okay, bye.
All right, everyone. Hopefully you've gotten a huge dose of inspiration and also some idea of how to get over or get past the trauma surviving. Definitely check out her website. She put a lot of time and energy in creating this website, and I can assure you that she's an amazing coach. And if you or you know someone who needs to get past this survivor, then please send them to Helen's way. She would love to see you. She would love to connect with you. And with that, I hope you have a wonderful day and catch me again next week with another live episode. Bye now.